Everyone, so chapter 22, I'm not actually sure if I like this one that much, although it's a milestone chapter, and that is because I realized I'm into book 2 technically. So this is split up like the Lord of the Rings, I realized, where each of the books, whether it was the Fellowship of the Ring or Two Towers or Return of the King, they each were 2 books in one, and I actually haven't looked at this yet. But I see there's actually three parts to this. The next one being the prophet. This was a climatic chapter, definitely a longer chapter, though I probably make this somewhat of a shorter video. In this chapter, Paul and Jessica are kind of in I think it's called a still tent, and they're just hanging out in the desert, processing everything that had just happened. Duncan, Idaho had in fact came and has stopped her and saved them earlier and put them in this location with enough supplies to be okay for a little bit. And now Paul and Jessica are basically processing everything that had happened. And the reason I found this chapter a little bit jarring was because Paul really, really changed. His character completely changed in my mind. And I guess it's good and bad, because what the author intended was to demonstrate very quickly a child turning into an adult. But because of how quickly that happened, it jarred me a little bit. And I think it was also because Paul, in the process of becoming an adult, was he was pretty grumpy with his mother, and a little bit demeaning when Jessica, I don't know, she seems like she was a pretty good mom, pretty supportive and everything in terms of this world, I guess. Anyway, what I believe happened is Paul starts seeing into the future, and it really freaks him out. And a couple times he even calls himself a freak, and Jessica's like, stop saying that. It's almost like he's going through like rapid teenage years in the matter of a few minutes. And maybe that's what happens for these Chosen One characters. But yeah, he sees these 2 futures. One where he's basically talking to Vladimir Harkonnen, and it didn't really specify like where that path goes, other than we find out Paul realizes that Vladimir is actually his grandfather and Jessica's father, which definitely is a big revelation. Though I think in the movies, maybe he was Jessica's relation or something. I don't remember him being her father outright. But anyway, I might have missed that. I think that was in the second movie. So that's pretty crazy, because then they're both, he's realizing, oh, I'm a Harkonnen. So I get it, yikes. That's not a good thing to realize, because they're pretty bad. The other path, though, he envisioned, he's basically leading some sort of jihad and with the Atreides people and conquering the universe, and he's not so keen on that path. So he's just having all sorts of issues processing these future revelations. And Jessica's doing her best to console him, but he's kind of like, back off, Mom. I'm in charge now. Chill out. And I think that's the part that was a little jarring for me, because up to that point they seem to have a pretty good relationship, and maybe it's still maybe it's still a fine relationship later on. I forget some of the details, or maybe they drift apart as he becomes more of a leader. Anyway, more on that as I read on, I guess. So one other thing is Paul kind of realizes he needs to befriend the Fremen. They've kind of been foreshadowing that forever, and he's going to be the Quasit Haderach, whatever that's called, and basically their leader. In a nutshell, that's pretty much the chapter. But again, it was a long chapter, a lot of Paul just really kind of freaking out. A little bit of backstory, some additional backstories we find out through them listening to the radio, that the remaining Atreides people are basically getting hunted down and killed by the Harkonnens. And we also realize that the Guild is kind of controlling the planet Dune, but sort of with a weird alliance with the Fremen. So this chapter, for whatever reason, there was so much going on, I got a tiny bit lost in it. I'd have to reread it to really, I think, capture everything. But I'm not going to. I'm going to keep pressing on. So that was chapter 22. Again, a little bit of a weird one for me. I hope in the next chapter things kind of settle down. I've recalibrated my brain for Paul being this sort of, more accepting this, not accepting, kind of like having to become this Chosen One character, and we'll see how it goes from there. Anyway, love to hear your thoughts. Did you like this chapter 22? Did you feel it was really an abrupt change in Paul's personality? Do you think it was good or bad? I'd love to hear what you think. Otherwise, we'll be marching into technically book 2 of book 1 here in the next video. Until then, take care. Bye.